Okay, dokie. Today we're talking about anaerobic respiration. This is kind of piggybacking off of glycolysis, and I'm not very prepared for this, but we'll see how this goes. There are two types. First, I want to cover how um, anaerobic versus aerobic. So first, aerobic is the normal type, and so for that you have regular oxygen and it's photosynthesis as usual. And so that's aerobic respiration. That means, so aerobic means air, and so that means like kind of with oxygen. So when oxygen is present. And then I'm going to draw two models here. So we know that lysis, causes the 2-pyruvate to be formed, so we're going to get 2 ATP out of that. And we get our 2 NADH. 2 NADH. But now that we have this NADH, glycolysis will stop if we can't offload the hydrogen ions onto NADH. And when there's no oxygen, it can't be offloaded at oxidative phosphorylation to have that happen. So what happens is fermentation. And so what happens is that there's two types of fermentation, alcoholic or lactic acid. And so what we'll do is get 2 NAD8 or NAD plus back. So when we go through fermentation, there alcohol. When we go through fermentation, we get our NAD plus back, and so that allows us to keep doing glycolysis and producing a little ATP to keep everything running, to keep the cell machinery running. If we don't have ATP, we're going to die. We can't activate pumps and do stuff like that. Lactic acid. Okay, and then, but there's two types of fermentation. There's alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. And there's only one really difference. In lactic acid fermentation, we just get the 2 NAD pluses back. But in alcoholic fermentation, we get 2 NAD plus and some CO2 back. And so alcoholic fermentation, that's what the bacteria is going to do when they're making alcoholic beverages, such as beer and things like that. The cells are doing glucose, like, I don't know. But basically, when you make beer, that's what the bacteria are doing. They're producing the alcohol via this reaction. There's no oxygen, and so they're having to do this to produce energy. And because when we make alcoholic beverages, we use bacteria, they don't have a mitochondria, so they don't do those reactions. Lactic acid fermentation is what humans do, so if you're running really fast and sprinting and your body can't supply enough oxygen to keep that reaction going, we're going to still be doing glycolysis to get our 2 ATP so we can still fuel our muscles. But the oxidative phosphorylation isn't happening because we can't get enough oxygen through there by breathing and pumping blood around. So what's going to happen is our body's going to do this fermentation process, and we're going to build up lactic acid. So when you go through a really hard workout and the next day you're really sore, it's because this lactic acid has built up in your muscle from doing too much anaerobic respiration, because either your body and your heart can't keep up, your lungs aren't putting enough oxygen into the bloodstream, or you're sprinting really fast and so the oxygen just can't get there. So remember, aerobic is with oxygen, anaerobic without oxygen. And when we do anaerobic respiration, it's just going to be glycolysis that's happening, nothing in the mitochondria. And I hope that was helpful.